Well, happy Year of the Bird. In 2018, Audubon and several of our partners are celebrating the centennial of a very important law called the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. To understand more about the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, we have to think back all the way to the 1800s, when there were few to no laws that protected our birds and other wildlife. People had seen the great auk go extinct because of overhunting. At the same time, our big spectacular wading birds like great egrets, snowy egrets, and roseate spoonbills were also under relentless assault for their plumage for use in the fashion industry. So with all of this going on, some people started to say, enough is enough, we have to do something. Then in 1896, two women in Boston, Harriet Hemingway and Mina Hall, started the Massachusetts Audubon Society, which is still going strong today. As these early Audubon societies grew, they started a social movement that redefined how Americans thought about birds, other wildlife, and our whole relationship with nature. One of the first things that these early Audubon societies did was encourage people to translate their values into their buying decisions and choose alternatives to hats made with bird feathers. These became known as Audubon hats. And in 1918, while the US was in the middle of fighting World War I, Congress passed the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which fully implemented the Migratory Bird Treaty and for the first time protected our birds from coast to coast. Wait, but what is the Migratory Bird Treaty Act? Well, put very simply, it makes it illegal to kill or harm more than 1,000 species of America's birds, including some of your favorites like the bald eagle, the northern cardinal, American goldfinch, or black-capped chickadee. Of course, the law protects birds from intentional killing, and it also protects them from unintentional but predictable and avoidable deaths. For example, if oil pits are left open, birds will see them, think they're water, and land and often die in the oil. But when companies cover those oil pits, the birds are protected and the companies can keep doing business. Well, this is all very personal to me. I was working for Audubon in 2010 when the BP Deepwater Horizon oil rig blew up in the Gulf of Mexico. In the days before the oil started coming ashore, these islands were verdant, they were full of birds. The brown pelicans would look at you with their bright white eyes. The roseate spoonbills were brilliant pink against the sky. But once the oil started coming to shore, these scenes of hope and beauty turned into scenes of horror and despair. Birds can't clean themselves of oil, and I watched brown pelicans frantically preening and preening, trying to get the oil out of their feathers. We saw entire colonies of chicks that were covered in oil, brand new in the world, but they would not live to see their first summer all the way through. BP was liable under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act for $100 million in fines. Those penalty dollars went back to restore ecosystems, rebuild habitat, and help birds bounce back after that horrible disaster. In December 2017, the White House released a new legal opinion that says, if you didn't mean to kill the bird, it's actually fine. If the BP oil spill happened today, there would be no accountability for those birds. The $100 million would not exist. The idea to me that there could not be accountability for what went wrong is unfathomable. And so we sued them. In a lawsuit titled National Audubon Society versus Department of the Interior, we and many of our partners are making the case that the government must restore decades of common sense protection for our birds. So 100 years ago, there were campaigns to get telegrams and handwritten letters into the offices of senators and members of Congress in support of passing the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. Looking back on that period of history, it feels very condensed to us today. But from start to finish, this was a 30-year effort. I think that's important to remember when we get discouraged about things that we're trying to get done, or when we wonder whether we'll make progress on issues that are important to us today. And if this is important to you, if you care about the birds that fill our skies, if you smile when a bird sings outside your window in the morning, if you enjoy responsible hunting, this is a moment to stand up and say, I care. It's not okay to rip away all these decades of protection. It's our turn to think about our grandchildren and their grandchildren and figure out what kind of world we want them to live in. For me, it needs to be a world full of birds.